from around the world. And from CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Morton Dean.
Good evening. With the promised balanced budget by 1984 no longer a realistic expectation, the administration continues to hunt for ways to trim the budget and change federal spending habits. Jed Duval reports.
The administration is expected to propose a series of new cuts in the so-called entitlement programs, direct federal payments to individuals. Richard Schweiker, Secretary of Health and Human Services, has detailed in a letter to Budget Chief David Stockman a series of steps designed to save billions of dollars. Among them, reductions in education for refugee children, new efforts at debt collection in Social Security. But the most politically explosive proposals are in the Medicare and Medicaid area, such as having those who work beyond age 65 pay for their own private health insurance, raising the medical insurance premium from $11 to $19, delaying inflation-connected increases in doctor fees. Secretary Schweiker, in the letter to Stockman, claims that these newest cuts put the Health and Human Services Department right on Stockman's targets for the department's fiscal 1983 budget. A spokesman for Senator Edward Kennedy, an opponent of such cuts in Medicare and Medicaid, said today, these proposals do not try to control costs, but merely change who pays. The federal government will pay less, senior citizens will pay more. But White House Chief of Staff James Baker today sounded conciliatory about what is now the administration's main budget concern.
There are, however, very few legislative days left before recess, and you have a situation where we've got to also consider what we could or could not get through the House.
White House sources say action on longer-range budget issues, spending in fiscal years 1983 and 84, may wait until January. The recent bad news about deficits expected in those years means the administration needs more time to plan more budget cuts of the sort Secretary Schweiker is proposing. Jed Duval, CBS News, the White House.
I see you're buying a long-lasting nasal spray. Why?
It gives me long-lasting relief.
How long?
Well, it says 8 to 10 hours.
Here's Duration nasal spray. How long does it give relief?
It says up to 12 hours. That's some difference.
That's 2 to 4 hours longer. That's because Duration has the longest-lasting nasal decongestant. Now, which one are you going to use?
Why, this one. Duration.
Duration with up to 2 to 4 hours more relief. The proof's on the package.
You can't count on anything these days.
Did you type the letter I told you to type?
No. With possibly one exception. Federal Express. When it absolutely positively has to be there overnight.
There's a published report today that the United States has secretly promised Egypt that if Egypt attacks Libya, it would not stand alone in the event of Soviet intervention. The Washington Post says the U.S. pledge to extend military protection was given the weekend before President Anwar Sadat was assassinated last month. The State Department had no comment today, but Egypt said the report was totally untrue. The catalyzing agent in all this was Libya's controversial leader. Bob Simon has more.
Colonel Gaddafi's decision to pull his forces out of Chad is, for the time being at least, easing the pressure on the administration to do something about the man who has climbed to the top of Alexander Haig's list of international mischief makers. That pressure reached a peak in early October when Anwar Sadat was afraid that Gaddafi was about to invade the Sudan. Sadat sent then Vice President Mubarak to Washington. He sought and obtained administration assurances that should hostilities break out between Egypt and Libya, the United States would take whatever measures would be necessary to deter Soviet intervention. Sadat was not encouraged to invade Libya, even though the Egyptian president and officials of more than one administration have discussed the possibility. The conclusion has always been that Egypt simply does not have the capacity to sustain an invasion across the 700 miles of sand dunes between the Libyan border and Tripoli. Washington is still considering a unilateral U.S. boycott of Libyan oil and a stepped-up anti-Gaddafi propaganda campaign. But some administration officials believe Secretary Haig has unnecessarily enhanced Gaddafi's stature by talking about him so much. that the leader of a nation of 2 million is not worthy of being called an enemy of the United States. Bob Simon, CBS News, Washington.
Gaddafi's troops are making the trek across the desert out of Chad and back into Libya. How they got to Chad in the first place and what they're leaving behind are the subjects of Larry Pintack's report.
It had all the hallmarks of a shotgun wedding. The Libyans were invited to Chad last December by President Ghakouni to help him win a civil war. Once an estimated 10 to 15,000 Libyans were in the country, though, Chad's government appeared to have little choice but to go along with Colonel Gaddafi's demand that the two nations merge. But Ghakouni recently decided to challenge the odds and try to reassert control. In a carefully timed move, he publicly asked the Libyans to leave, then flew to Paris to seek international support at a Franco-African summit. Last week, like a jilted lover, Colonel Gaddafi ordered his men home. Once again, the Libyan strongman's persistent efforts to build a Pan-African nation had been thwarted. The Libyans say it will take some time to transport their tanks, artillery, and troops back across the Sahara. But buoyed by his government's victory, Vice President Kamugwe seemed to add insult to injury, telling CBS News that Gaddafi's men have until Wednesday to get out. Kamugwe also invited the U.S. and European nations to, quote, fly here right away and come to Chad's financial rescue. The word bankrupt does not begin to describe the state of Africa's poorest nation. This is the finance ministry. Like almost every other building in the capital outside the presidential compound, it has been completely gutted. During the 2 years of fighting in N'Djamena, the looting was total. The only thing nobody seemed to want were the filing cabinets. Virtually every stick of furniture, every air conditioner, every light fixture is gone. Even the sinks, toilets, and floor tiles were ripped out and sold across the river in neighboring Cameroon. Roofing materials, too, were in big demand, and N'Djamena is now a city open to the sky. Neither the hospital workers who helped foreign volunteers, nor the civil service functionaries who stayed through the war have seen their salaries in years. The Libyans gave Ghakouni's cabinet some $18 million to pay them, but little of that ever reached the average worker. Philippe Laurent, who heads a team of Belgian doctors in Chad, says some continue to work largely on the hope that the government will someday again function properly.
Sometimes, from time to time, they are paid, but just for 1 month or 2 months. So it's possible for them to get a little money, but not enough to have enough food.
The hundreds of thousands of refugees who fled the civil war are rapidly returning. Many have come back with UN assistance. Others crossed the river from neighboring Cameroon on their own. Most depend almost totally on international handouts to survive. But the UN and CARE operate only in the capital. Chadians in the interior have been relying on the Libyans. Foreign relief workers here say the Libyans have done a great deal to feed and care for the people of Chad. Now someone else must take over. As one taxi driver said in his broken English, it's good the Libyans go. Now you must give us much money. With the return of the refugees, life is gradually beginning again. The central market is functioning, selling food as well as many goods stolen in the looting to the few who were employed. Gasoline smuggled across the river is also available, though the gas stations have taken a decidedly different form. Yet the continued existence of 11 private armies means peace is far from assured. Even so, many who have come to help are hopeful.
Slowly but surely, those people start getting their jobs back and start working. And commerce is picking up slowly as well. So it's going to be tough, but the Chadians will make a go of it for sure.
But the task ahead is formidable. As one UN official asked, where do you begin in a country that has had its heart ripped out? Larry Pintack, CBS News, in N'Djamena, Chad.
It's reported today that the Soviet Union is telling Libya that the imminent American joint military exercise in Egypt, part of Operation Bright Star, is more than just an exercise. The Philadelphia Bulletin, quoting unnamed foreign intelligence sources, says Moscow is warning that the exercise is really a prelude to an Egyptian invasion of Libya. And the paper says Moscow is pressuring Libyan leader Gaddafi to allow Soviet ships and planes to use Libyan ports and bases. More support today for an alternative to the Camp David peace plan. West German Foreign Minister Hans-Dietrich Genscher said that West Germany considers the 8-point Saudi Arabian plan to be a realistic starting point for an overall Middle East settlement. Genscher was interviewed by Egyptian television. The Saudi plan calls for the creation of a Palestinian state in the Israeli-occupied West Bank and Gaza.
First came words. And when there were more words than man could remember, he invented writing. And when there was more information than writing could manage, the Bell system used its knowledge to invent the tools to manage information in a new age. The transistor, the laser, bubble memory, the world's largest information network. And now, to help business improve profits, increase productivity, and achieve energy savings of up to 20%, the fully electronic Dimension PBX. To carry the language of machines with greater speed and accuracy, an expanding digital network. To save time and travel for busy executives, new forms of teleconferencing. Knowledge turned to the needs of business. Information management from Bell.
Whenever the roof caves in on the housing industry, you know the economy is in bad shape. The roof has caved in. The sale of homes has dropped to a 6-year low.
There's the bid to 120. 110,000.
That's not as much the call of an auctioneer as it is a call for help. A real estate firm in Oak Brook, Illinois couldn't sell some houses the conventional way, so they were auctioned off. Creative salesmanship is a must in the housing market these days. Barry Peterson found more proof of that in a community in Oregon.
It sits shiny, gleaming, and like so many other new homes in America today, unsold. For nearly a year and a half, contractor Zydon Whittemore and his wife Sharon have tried to sell the house he built in Estacada, Oregon. High interest rates discouraged buyers. When all else failed, and with the bank demanding immediate repayment of the construction loan, the Whittemores put the $125,000 house up as a big prize in a special community bingo game.
This is your receipt that night. Okay, and that has to be the winning ticket, huh?
For the Whittemores, there was more, much more at stake. Their own home and the family farm. They took out a $25,000 second mortgage on the farm to help finish the new house. Now they have sold off all but one cow from a herd that once numbered nearly 30, have run out of collateral for any new loans, and face a December 1st foreclosure on the farm. Last night, more than 1,000 people crowded in to play bingo at a nearby shopping center. Some to play for 2 cars or cash prizes. Some willing to spend $100 a ticket for a chance to own the house. The game was organized by a local community group anxious to help the Whittemores and planning to use any extra money raised to help build a city swimming pool. More than 1,100 tickets had to be sold to pay off the house loans. But in the end, it was not to be. Organizers sold fewer than half the number of tickets needed, so the bingo game for the house was called off. It was close to midnight as people waited in line to get their money back. The Whittemores had gambled on this game of numbers and luck and lost.
We've always been workers, and we plan on keep on doing it. Ought to be a way. There's some way that we can do it.
I think it's a sign of the times we live in, and I think when things like these happen, then it's time for people to get in and use some ingenuity and see what they can figure out to help save the lifestyle they're living in or what they have.
You think you can save your lifestyle?
Sure gonna try.
Zydon Whittemore said he was not bitter about high interest rates, about a sagging economy that may cost him his home and farm. He talked instead about those who spent weeks organizing the game. How can you be bitter, he asked, when so many friends and neighbors tried to help you out? Barry Peterson, CBS News, near Estacada, Oregon.
Estacada's economic problems don't stop with new homes. There's the matter of schoolhouses as well. They're not just closed for the weekend, they're closed indefinitely. About 2,500 students have said their goodbyes and signed each other's yearbooks following the refusal of voters for the 4th time to approve higher taxes to keep them open. Another vote is scheduled later this month. In nearby Portland, Oregon, isn't just public school money that's in short supply, it's students too. Jerry Bowen reports the solution there isn't to close the schools. The solution is to open them up to churches that have the money and the students to fill them.
As in past years, both junior high schools in the suburban Portland Park Rose district are humming with the sounds of higher learning.
As I live, says the Lord, every knee shall bow to me.
But these are not the sounds or words one expects to hear in a public school building. Words from the Bible. What is happening in the Park Rose School District this year is the result of a marriage of convenience between a public school system with declining enrollment and a private Christian school needing more and more room.
Well, you know, in Christian schools, we're always going to give the Lord credit. And it does seem almost like a miracle, I guess, from our point of view.
1 year ago, the students of Portland Christian High were jammed in this small building. Plans for $1 million expansion were on the drawing board when word came of the problem in Park Rose. Too few students, too many buildings.
We saw there was no upturn in the amount of numbers of youngsters. We began to look for someone to operate in the building who would do the same thing that we did, and that is educate kids.
Dear Holy Father, thank you for this day you've given us and for this new school and for all the kids there.
Portland Christian High won a bidding war with another fundamentalist school for the building, agreeing to a 10-year, $850,000 lease with an option to buy if public enrollment continues to decline. And now, the Christian High football team, nicknamed the Lions naturally, has practice fields galore. And the teaching staff has more than enough class space to practice its particular brand of education on the 320 students. Dress codes, discipline, and the teachings of the Bible.
Look at the creation, hydrogen and oxygen gas today, and say, what does that tell me about the God who made it?
Administrators of this private school doubt this public building will ever be public again.
This has a capacity of 720 students, and Lord willing, in 3 or 4 years, we'll have this facility full.
And Park Rose has yet another building it can't fill, an elementary school that closed in the hush that followed the baby boom. And there is another, smaller Christian school renting 4 rooms of the structure now. Its fundamentalist operators hoping for their own miracle, the miracle of growth. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, Portland.
Hi, Hal.
Hi, Mr. Van Patten.
You know, I've got a big family in real life, too. So we need room when we drive. Well, our new Olds Delta 88 is one family car that didn't forget the family. And this one's a diesel, so it has the same kind of mileage as many smaller cars. Now, that's practical. Our new Olds Delta 88. In today's practical world, there's still room to do it with style.
Some job, standing all day, and now I've got hemorrhoids.
Better not neglect them.
I was hoping they'd go away.
When I get a flare-up, Preparation H often gives me fast temporary relief from pain and itch. It's recommended by doctors. And Preparation H helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues.
I'll try Prep H.
Ready for the big sale today? Thanks to Preparation H.
Doctor recommended Preparation H. Relieves pain and itch, even helps shrink swelling.
Before he was shot and wounded last May, Pope John Paul was widely known as the traveling Pope. Now he plans to start traveling again. Later this month, he'll visit a shrine in the Central Hills of Italy, and next summer he will visit his native Poland again. On the subject of women in the church, the Pope has broken little new ground, taking the traditional view of a limited role for women, no role at all as priests. Still, as Ned Parter reports, the roles played by women in the American Catholic Church are expanding a bit, partly because of Vatican policy and partly because of a shortage of men.
This is a sight you would not have seen a few years ago. A woman, a Catholic nun, running a parish. Sister Marla Lang runs the parish in Harrison, Wisconsin.
How would we interact with Christian formation and the ministerial
This is a new sight, too. A woman as member of a bishop's cabinet. Sister Michelle Oley is the first ever in the Archdiocese of Milwaukee.
Let's let Teresa put this one on.
And this is new. Sister Roberta Reynolds is a hospital chaplain in Chicago, playing with children, acting as friend and guide, and being there when crises develop.
I like what I'm doing, and basically I'm accepted for what I'm doing, and that's what's important.
Catholic Church moves slowly, but with the Second Vatican Council in the 1960s, it took a quantum leap. The definition of ministry changed. No longer must the pastoral work of the Church be done strictly by ordained priests.
The body of Christ.
But as the role of lay people expanded, the size of the clergy declined. The number of men studying to enter the priesthood is a quarter of what it was in 1965.
But I stopped by.
That is why Sister Marla's parish has no priest for the first time in its 76-year history, and why she is the first female parish administrator in Wisconsin history. She is bookkeeper, friend, and religious leader for 200 families.
I don't sense, because I am a woman, that it makes that much difference. The body of Christ, Emma.
But not being a priest does make a difference. Sister Marla may give communion, but only if the host has been blessed by a priest. Sister Michelle may serve a bishop, but not become one. Sister Roberta may tend the sick, but not perform the anointing of the sick.
I have to contact a priest, frequently who the family doesn't know, and they come in to perform a sacrament and then leave, and I pick up.
And there are times when you just feel like you'd really like to be able to preside at that celebration because of the relationship you have with the people.
I think women have gifts to give to society, and the structures should be freed up to accept both men and women.
Why are women barred from the priesthood? The reasons most often given are that all the apostles were male, and that after 2,000 years of an all-male priesthood, this is no time for a change.
One reason for going slowly is that the church always goes slowly.
Sister Agnes Cunningham is a theologian at St. Mary of the Lake Seminary near Chicago. And here, where pastors of the future prepare, she says it is best for now that women not be among them.
No theological reasons have surfaced to date for barring women from ordination to priesthood. But I think there's another side to that coin, that there are no real theological evidences that it should happen.
Sister Ann Carr teaches at the University of Chicago, and she says the position of the official church is becoming less and less tolerable.
In the end, it's not theological argument that wins the day, although that's important. In the end, it's just a change of attitude that gradually occurs.
The women now advancing in the church are performing a grassroots ministry. They say they are doing more and more, so that if Rome ever considers a female priesthood, it will already be all but done. Ned Potter, CBS News, Harrison, Wisconsin.
At the Kennedy Space Center, most of the ground crew had the day off, but not the fueling crew. Some highly toxic fuel was pumped into the space shuttle's hydraulic system. So far, all is going according to schedule, a very tight schedule that NASA says can't slip much if the Columbia is to do on Thursday what it couldn't do last Wednesday.
This Whirlpool refrigerator almost talks to you. It tells you when a door has been left open, if the temperature inside the refrigerator is too warm, when it's time to vacuum underneath, even if the power's been out. We're always looking for new ways to build quality into every appliance. That's why this Whirlpool refrigerator has solid-state technology. First, we brought you no fingerprints. Now, we bring you no worries. Because at Whirlpool, quality is our way of life.
People say I have $1 million smile. Well, I should. Sometimes I think I invested that much in it. That's why I chew Freedent. Freedent is the one gum that won't stick to my dental work. And I love that fresh minty taste. Freedent gives me all the chewing pleasure I could ask for in a gum. And where my dental work's concerned, there's nothing tacky about it. With Freedent, the pleasure sticks, but gum won't.
It's time for a little quiz. What town in Great Britain has a split personality, half in one country, half in another? Want a hint? It's the town where the world's largest used bookstore is located. Give up? Here's Martha Teichner with the answers.
Hay-on-Wye, an old, neat little town noted in the guidebooks for country walks. A A typical picturesque English village, except that it isn't quite English. The Welsh border runs right through the middle of town. And if you ask anybody, they'll tell you that country walks aren't the principal tourist attraction. Richard Booth, owner of the world's largest used bookstore, is.
We were in the Guinness Book of Records and we had a major running one department, and he decided to count them, and he spent 3 weeks doing it, and he found we had 11 miles of books.
A few minutes in one of his 6 buildings will tell you that Richard Booth is a tourist attraction not just because he has so many books, unusual as they may be. Richard Booth is a character.
I see the rise of Oxford is the decline of Britain. It is out of horrors of horrors, you know, they're kind of, you know, they're all just educating a bureaucracy.
In a long list of things Richard Booth hates, bureaucracy comes first. Richard Booth bought himself the town's ruined castle and, tongue firmly in cheek, declared Hay-on-Wye independent of the British government. He crowned himself King Richard Coeur de Live, Richard the Book-Hearted.
I have a crown jewel maker. This is the Royal Orb, which was previously a kind of, you know, came from a lavatory, a flush lavatory. And then I put on the crown, on which that jewel came from the collar of a squash toy dog. And I go on, and this is me in crown jewels. I was a king because I could be, 3 years ago, Richard Coeur de Live.
King Richard Coeur de Live named his horse his prime minister.
I believe that the horse is a more intelligent animal than the man, because it leads to divided the Industrial Revolution. People always ask me if I'm serious, and I say, well, I'm not serious at all, but at least I'm more serious than real politics.
If Richard Booth hasn't gotten his message across, he has one last gimmick. This. The music, Bridge on the River Kwai, rhymes with Hay-on-Wye. Martha Teichner, CBS News, Hay-on-Wye.
And that's the news. I'm Morton Dean, CBS News, New York. Have a good evening and a good week.
To help reduce dependence on foreign oil, Conoco is forcing more oil out of America's old fields. This Texas field originally held 93 million barrels of oil. By conventional methods, we got out 16 million barrels. By pumping in water, we pushed out another 4 million. Now we're injecting carbon dioxide to push out still more oil. It's expensive, but we'll keep at it. Conoco, now combined with DuPont for a better energy future.
We are going to be late for the show. There's plenty of time.
He's just jittery. Doctor says too much caffeine.
Well, try some Sanka brandy, caffeinated coffee. I only like real coffee. Sanka's 100% real coffee. Try it. That is good. Well, got the tickets? 50-yard line. Great, let's go. Hey, we got time for a cup of Sanka and maybe one for the road.
Sanka decaffeinated coffee. Enjoy it wherever you go.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Morton Dean. These stations supplied news, film, and tape to the CBS Evening News this weekend. For an update on today's events, watch the CBS Sunday Night News with Charles Osgood.
Should the school tell you when to teach your child about sex and spank him if they want to? And can they arrest you for bucking the system? Join Harry Reasoner for a real education on Up to the Minute this week.
This is CBS.
From the time the first settlers stepped on this shore, he felt the need to create shelter, to protect himself from Indians, the harsh elements, from things he didn't understand. Slowly, our ancestors built their homes and raised their families and grew Virginia into America. But along the way, we changed. We don't trade beads anymore. It's stocks and bonds. And the tax on tea isn't the problem. It's the